Good afternoon, everybody. You can't hear me? How about there? Is that a little better?
Yeah.
Okay. Just kind of have to lean in a little bit. All right. Well, it is my pleasure to introduce our very own Tom Regan, who is a history maker at Homestake, and he will be presenting his story today that is published in the book, The Price of Gold. And he'll also be sharing some of the knowledge he has gained through the years of working at Homestake. So grab your seats, adjust your hard hats, and get ready as Tom comes up to present his program today.
Thank you, Aaron. As we were starting, I looked at my watch and it was time to start. You know, when you're at Homestake getting ready to go underground, you ride an elevator conveyance that we called a cage, and it's like an airplane. It doesn't wait. So if you want to be on time, you're late. At any rate, if it can't be grown, it must be mined. That's a mantra that I have used pretty much my whole career. And it stands true for riches of the universe, as well as for our friendship, our families, and our faith. If it can't be grown, it must be mined. Well, I am Tom Regan, and I will get into my story in just a few minutes. I wanted to spend just a little time explaining all the show and tell. And I was telling somebody here, it kind of takes you back when you're a kid and you have to do show and tell when you're a little kid. So remember, everything that you need to know, you've already learned in kindergarten. And yeah, Diane's a teacher's aide for the kindergartner, so she knows what I'm talking about, and she has one right here. Well, the purpose of this presentation is twofold. Number one, it is to read the story that I have in this collection of stories that were collected and annotated and edited by Erin Woodward. And she was a young communication specialist that worked for Sanford Underground Research Facility at the Homestake mine site for a number of years, and wrote stories for the newsletter and for the website and public relations in general. And she was fascinated by the number of Homestake miners that had been rehired to help reopen and repurpose the underground from mining to science, education, and outreach. And she did a marvelous job. And she didn't ask me, but she moved to California and is now living and working there with her new husband. At any rate, it took her several years. So I speak in the book about Diana and I having been married 53 years when I actually wrote this. This month, it's 56 years. So that's part of it. Yeah, yay for you. At any rate, that's the purpose to begin with, is to present this book. And I believe Pat is here. Yeah. Hi, Pat, our resident librarian extraordinaire. And I'm going to present this book that I'm going to read from to West Hills Village for the library, amongst several other books as time goes on that I have. Some of them are on display over here that I'm still actually using as resources in research. Some of them are already in the library. And the second part of this presentation is really a kickoff of presenting snippets of what I'm working on, I have been working on, I'm working on, and I doubt if I'll ever live long enough to ever finish it. But it's an encyclopedia of everything that I know and I think I know from my time of really over 55 years associated with the Homestake mine site and the repurposing of the mine as the Sanford Underground Research Facility. And I continue to work on that. I have volumes and volumes of literature, memoirs, documents, and thousands of photographs that I'm putting together, mostly in PowerPoint presentations or other types of booklets, if you will. And all of this is going to be donated to the Homestake Adams Research Cultural Center in Deadwood, which Homestake Mining Company provided seed money to repurpose the Landstrom's jewelry factory into this collection facility, which is perfect. It has vaults. It has all of the correct climate control. So that is one of the main purposes, is to try to preserve this information. I'm a firm believer that if we don't know our history, we can't continue to improve, and we can't learn from our history if we don't have it. So this will be an offering for other researchers. And I don't know, is that my phone? Oh no. If you would turn off your phones, that would be helpful. Sorry, I thought it was me. At any rate, that's the second purpose, and this is the kickoff for that. I hope to do at least one program a month, and I've worked with Bethany and Aaron to start that in September, the first Monday in September and the first Monday in October. So, and I hope to take you on tours with me to various parts of the mine and various aspects of the Homestake and Sanford lab as we move forward together. So it will be an adventure with PowerPoints and videos and, again, show and tell. So without further ado, I would like to take this time to read the story within the stories. I think there's 20 or 25 different contributors to this book, all of whom I worked with and all of whom I know and communicate with. Each one of them tell a slice of their life and a slice of their experiences related to lead and the Black Hills, and particularly the Homestake mine. And I think you'll find it of great interest if you take the opportunity to read this book in full. So let me just begin. Tom Regan, first date. Diana is my wife of over 56 years. We dated through high school. We went to the lighting is reflecting here, but there we go. We went to movies like most kids did. That was one of the only entertainment venues in our small mining town. It was a good date, holding hands and all that. Yeah. I can still remember the movie. It was Billy with Patty Duke. I know we enjoyed each other's company so much, we stayed a second time. And of course, got in trouble with our parents. So yes, I married my childhood sweetheart, so to speak. She was 3 months out of high school when we married. I was a year and 3 months out of high school, and still trying to figure it out. Cigarette lighter. The summer after high school, I worked for a company called Black Hills Lumber out of Whitewood. I was driving an old 1940-something gasoline-powered truck, an old clunker. I remember driving to scenic South Dakota, where we were building a pole barn at a local ranch. At the time, I smoked cigarettes. I really wanted a cigarette, but I'd run out of matches. and the truck didn't have a cigarette lighter. I thought, what in the world am I going to do to light my cigarette? I finally figured it out. I stopped alongside the road, got up underneath the truck, and lit my cigarette on the exhaust manifold. Then I chain smoked all the way into Simi. I started smoking when I was 14 years old. I quit when I was 24 while I was in the Army. Cigarettes went from 35 cents to 55 cents a pack. And I said, I'll never pay that much for cigarettes. I'm frugal, so I quit. That was the period they started putting warnings on cigarette packages. But when I was growing up, it was a social expectation to smoke. In basic training, they issued cigarettes to us soldiers. During breaks, the drill sergeant would yell out, "Smoke them if you got them." Working for Homestake a few years later, I was told you weren't supposed to smoke underground, but you were allowed. Everybody did. I don't remember anybody at that time that didn't smoke. Uncle Sam. In 1972, while working underground at Homestake and as a member of the United Steelworkers Union, we were on strike. We were striking to go from a 6-day work week to a 5-day work week. I went to work at Western Nuclear Underground Uranium Mine as a motorman in central Wyoming while the strike drug on. Because I couldn't get re-registered for college while I was in Wyoming, I got a letter from Uncle Sam. Greetings, you are now in the military. I didn't want to be drafted. I was frustrated. I even thought about being a conscientious objector. I did some soul searching. I asked myself, if I had to defend my wife and baby, what would I do? I knew I would defend them to the death. And if I can do that for my wife and baby, would I do it for my neighbor? I knew that I could not, in good conscience, be a conscientious objector. So I found a new apartment for my wife and our baby, and I was inducted November 1972. I was told I would be a clerk in the Army Security Agency in the Republic of Sinop, Turkey. I had to go to the library and look in an encyclopedia to find out where Turkey was. I must not have paid close attention, Teach. I was stationed at a NATO base, North Atlantic Treaty Organization base, along the Black Sea. It was a listening post monitoring ship and aircraft traffic from anyone in and around the Black Sea, mainly the Soviet Union. In the barracks, 5 of us guys got together, all company clerks, all administrative types. We had such stories that were similar. Each of us had a wife and a 2-year-old baby. We thought, why can't we bring our wives and babies over here? The base was a small, remote location. There were no facilities for families, but we asked the colonel if we could bring our families over on our visas, on our own expense, to live with us. We were given permission to live off base in the nearby town of Sinop. We were all dirt poor, but we had enough to rent an apartment building with 6 apartments. Each family had 1 apartment. The 6th was a communal living space. The town of about 15,000 was split in half. Half the town got electricity one day, and the other half got water. They didn't have enough power to do both on the same day. Our shower was an empty room with a pipe coming out of the wall. We bought a big tub for my wife and daughter to take a bath in. The hot water was heated with a wood-burning hot water heater. They bathed in hot water, and I got what was left over. Story of my life. I would get down to 30 degrees or less in the winter. We had a kerosene stove, but didn't run that at night while asleep. I didn't trust it. I was afraid that we'd get carbon monoxide poisoning. We had a little pot-bellied wood stove. We'd get that stoked up. The 3 of us would sleep in the same bed when it was so cold. Long underwear, sweaters, and stocking caps, sometimes even gloves and mittens. It's what they call minimalist living, the real deal. But in the evenings, the families would get together and share meals. No telephone, no TV, no radio. We did have cassette tape players, though, and our families sent us cassette tapes. We built a ping pong table. We'd play Monopoly. Usually at about 10 o'clock at night, we'd call it a day and go back to our separate apartments. My wife and oldest daughter were there with me for about a year. I was there for 16 to 18 months before my term of service ended. I did what duty said I had to do. I was proud of it. It was one of the greatest experiences for my wife and me. The whole time, we just had each other. That was it. Excuse me. The Vietnam era was a very tense time. On our way to Turkey, there was a whole 747 jet full of people that were going to Europe, to different Air Force and NATO bases. Hundreds of soldiers were getting transferred. There were protesters at airports in the United States and in Europe. We were in civilian clothes, but they knew we were military. We were getting spit on and called terrible names. Things were thrown at us. When we were coming back after my term of service ended, we were told you cannot wear your military uniform. Keep a low profile because protesters will attack you when you get back to the United States because you had been in the military. That was really affected me. It makes me sad even today. We were drafted. We didn't really have a choice. We did, but we didn't. We did what our duty call said to do in service of our country. I got back to the United States, and 2 days later, I'm poor, remember, I'm back underground working. At the time, they were developing a deep part of the underground. When I left in 72, we were drilling a series of 5-foot diameter raise bore holes between the 5,900 and the 6,200 levels, about every 150 feet apart for open cut and fill mining stopes. They were being drilled they'd be drilling these series of boreholes for 18 months while we were gone. They were down the track line several thousand feet doing the same work with the same machine. To this day, I remember getting on the cage and the miners I was working with said, "Oh, you've been on vacation." Yeah, 18 months or 8 days. It was the same to them. I got my diggers, that's the mine clothes we called them, and my lunch bucket and my hard hat. I'd been nearly 2 years in the military. Everything went right back like I had never left, like it never happened. Mine rescue. In 1977, there was a fire underground, a spontaneous combustion fire in an old timber stope on the 3050 level near the Ross shaft. The mine superintendent happened to be walking by and smelled a little smoke. We went back to investigate, looked up, and he saw timbers on fire. By this time, Diana and I had 2 children, Michelle and Jennifer, and we were buying a house in Lead near the mine. The next day, I walked up to the Ross gate. The gate was shut. The security guard said, "You can't go to work today." I turned my head and said, "What do you mean I can't go to work?" He said, "There's a mine fire. You can't go to work." Boy, I was really mad. This is my job. I've got a wife and 2 daughters. I was working straight nights and going to college during the day. We were living payday to payday. I needed the work. I think it was 6 weeks that it took to put this fire out, and I wasn't part of it. I had to stay home and twiddle my thumbs and wait and wonder what was going to happen. I vowed at that time, if there was ever a problem in this mine, never again will I not be part of the solution. I might be polishing shoes or dishing up soup, but I will be there. As soon as we got back to work, I joined the mine rescue team. Turkey fire. Some fires were spontaneous combustion in the old workings. Others were because of errors made during hot work and cutting and welding. As the mine rescue team matured, the cost and downtime of underground fires diminished. That fire on the 3050 took 6 weeks to put out. A very similar fire a few decades later took us 5 days. We called it the Turkey Fire because it happened over Thanksgiving. I was part of the initial response team. We were chasing smoke. The ventilation system underground is very complex. We didn't know exactly where the fire was. We went to an area called 11 Ledge on the 4850, thinking that's where the smoke was, and that's where the fire was. But smoke was just coming up through an old dump area. By then, we were running out of oxygen, so we went back to the surface to replenish our breathing apparatuses and went down a second time. Most people had been evacuated, but 7 or 8 people were at a fresh air base on the 5,000 level below 4 winds. A winds is an underground shaft that doesn't connect to the surface, and it's about 1.5 miles to the southeast of where the Yates shaft is on the 4850. The 4 winds hoist room was at 500 parts per million of carbon monoxide, and the hoist operator was using what's called a self-contained breathing apparatus hoist breather system, SCBA. The shaft was at 400 parts per million carbon monoxide. The short-term exposure limit for carbon monoxide is 300 parts per million for 15 minutes without ill effect. Wearing our SCBAs, we went down to the 5,000 level to the fresh air base. The miners put on their self-rescuers, a filter respirator that cleans the air of carbon monoxide. We got them to the 4850, then to the Yates, and up to the surface. Then I went down a third time. We finally traced the fire back to the 5900, way back in an old part of the mine called 9 Ledge that was being redeveloped. The captain of our team, Bob Varick, I was the second person in line behind Bob. Well, we actually found the fire that first day. We came around a corner and saw the track ties glowing, but we still needed to find out where exactly the source of the fire was. Bob and I walked into the drift, and the guys behind us hooked up a water hose and sprayed us to keep us cool. As the cold water hit the ground and the rock, you could hear popping and cracking from the heat. At this point, we were in 1,500 parts per million carbon monoxide. One breath and you were dead. You learned to trust your training, you learned to trust the apparatus that you were breathing with, and you learned to trust the team. I didn't go back very far. We didn't go back very far just to see what we had to do. Far as we could tell, a miner on the previous shift had been metalworking with an oxygen acetylene torch on the 6050 level. A piece of slag or hot metal had slipped behind the timbers and was smoldering for hours. The vertical raise tunnel in the rock caught on fire later after work was completed that day. It was a timber structure and it burned all the way up, starting the track ties above on the 5900 on fire. By that time, I was done for the day. The next teams established the firefighting procedure, drown the fire with sand backfill. The mine rescue team to this day doesn't do direct firefighting. It's all indirect. We build walls, we pump foam, we flood fire with water and sand. That's how we fight fire. And 3 shifts later, I went back down. Our task was to hook up the sand line. The pipe itself was hot, and there was hot air coming through the empty pipe. To not burn our hands, we wore insulated gloves. That was difficult because you lose your dexterity. We're trying to put a coupling together to put bolts on. It was hot. You're wearing a 35-pound breathing apparatus, but we got it done. We were able to backfill it and put the fire out. I think it took 4, maybe 5 days from the time we discovered the fire until we went back to work. In the 1990s, Homestake made the effort to wall off and backfill all the potential spontaneous combustion fire areas. There are very, very few of those left even today. The probabilities are very low these days, but we still have a full-fledged emergency rescue team for medical and unforeseen events. We have identified potential risks and have plans in place. I'm a certified mine rescue trainer, more of a consultant for these guys. We train and we train, always with the worst case scenario in the back of our mind. The Homestake Band. My mother, Judy, and father, Jack, loved big band music. They loved to go out and dance. Every Saturday night, they'd have the Lawrence Welk show on TV. I started out playing the clarinet in the 4th grade. I played clarinet, bass clarinet, and contrabass clarinet all through high school. After being discharged from the military, I got back into music with the Homestake Band. We had uniforms and the whole bit. The concert band had a quasi-military uniform, blue with gold rope on the shoulder and a military cap. The marching band had bib overalls and yellow hard hats. We played in the city band shell at the bottom of Mill Street. We'd do summer concerts, some winter concerts. We would march in parades, the days of 76, gold discovery days. As mining changed, the community changed. Homestake started downsizing some of their community benefits and involvement. They did away with the Homestake sponsored band. Deadwood had a city band, so we combined into the Northern Hills Community Band, but I kept playing. I'd play with the community band and with Black Hills State University Band in Spearfish. Music never stopped being a really important part of my life, even though I stopped playing in bands several years ago. Mother Homestake. I started working for Homestake in 1969, the same year my wife and I were married. 2 years later, our oldest daughter was born. Back then, Mother Homestake provided free water, free hospital, free recreation, free everything for employees. You worked for the company. They provided just about everything a community could ask for. Kind of like West Hills Village. In the 1980s and 90s, that was the beginning of the end of our company town. I remember the first time we got a water bill, we thought, oh my, how can this be? It had to always been free. The first time we had to get health insurance, I mean, what was that? Both my daughters were born with free medical. It cost us nothing. That all changed closer to closure. In the 1990s, the price of gold was dropping exponentially. Homestake Mining Company began to downsize. There were lots of geopolitical, economic reasons that Homestake Mine closed, including the lower price for an ounce of gold. There's a whole argument about why it happened, why it maybe didn't have to happen. That's a lot of speculation. As laborer, motorman, miner, raised bore machine operator, scheduler, planner, production foreman, cleanup closure foreman, safety director, and consultant to reopen the mine, I lived through the best of times and the worst of times at the mine. When we were a company town, when mining changed from very labor intensive to more mechanized, when we downsized, going from 1,200 employees down to 300, even down to about 30 of us at final closure. And then ultimately, I was the cleanup closure foreman and surface safety director for the closure and demolition of all the surface properties. Then the conversation began around turning Homestake into Dussel, the deep underground science and engineering laboratory. Homestake was in competition with other properties in the United States. I was part of the presentation to the National Science Foundation and committees in Washington, D.C. about why Homestake should be selected as the preferred site. It's been an exciting career. I'm blessed with all the experience that I had. I'm sometimes overwhelmed by everything that I've been able to be part of. Now I am honored to be part of the South Dakota Science and Technology Authority at the Sanford Underground Research Facility at the former Homestake Mine, where we're creating the underground laboratory here in Lead. It's the beginning of a rebirth and renaissance time again. Faith. I'm an ordained deacon in the Episcopal Church. From my point of view, I've been called to serve God in a way that's not in your face. I don't wear it on my sleeve, but I try to live it in an everyday kind of way. Sometimes I care for people who are unchurched, who have never been connected with organized church or religion. I get calls from folks, especially minors and minor families. They call me because they know I'll come. I'll spend time in hospitals and hospice. I'm not a counselor, but a listener. It's been a ministry of presence and prayer. I have never separated my sense of ministry from my work. They go hand in hand. The military, mining, mine rescue. Even today, as I am consulting, mentoring, and training people to take over the lab, the work is the same. It's part of the tapestry of who I am. All these things build together to say, that's part of who this person is. So, Pat, I would like to present this book to West Hills Village and to the library.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. We'll be very pleased to receive this. For a little while, it'll be on the new bookshelf. If you'd like to look at it or check it out later, we'll put it in the South Dakota area with other books about Homestake.
Very
So
good.
thank you very much.
Thank you for your good work, Pat. Couple of things before you go up and do the bruise, tattoos, and bikes, bruise, and tattoos. So anyway, the book itself is for sale. I have a list of retail locations, or you can go on the Price of Gold website and order it. But so far, it's available at Mitzi's Bookstore in Rapid City, Henry's Bookstore in Spearfish, Sanford Lab Homestake Visitor Center in Lead, Black Hills Mining Museum in Lead, Lead Deadwood Arts Center in Lead, Lotus Up Espresso in Lead, and Black Hills Institute of Geological Research in Hill City, South Dakota. Again, the next presentations for 2025 for what I'm calling Gold Server Encyclopedia, an anthology of Homestake Mine and SDSTA surf history, memoirs, and people stories here at West Hills Village will be September 1st and then October 6th. Are there any questions or thoughts, ideas? Yes. Oh, yeah, thank you for pointing that out. These pictures along the wall are gifts, they're prints of charcoal artwork done by Marcia Atram was her name at the time. It's Marcia Smith. She lives in Spearfish now. She's a lead girl. And she gave me a complete set of prints, including an original that we have in our apartment with done with watercolors. And I didn't bring it, but this is a picture of the picture. But I thought you might enjoy those. And the storyboards actually kind of go from left to right and tell the story that I just had with the each one of those represent different chapters or snippets from the encyclopedia, plus many, many more. I have one binder of maps that I have worked on for many years. I have one whole shelf of nothing but maps, including all of my cleanup closure maps that have all my pencil notations of everything that we did to clean up the underground by EPA and Department of Agricultural Natural Resources standards. A couple other things. This is an example of one of the they're not really chapters, but one of the parts of the anthology or encyclopedia. This is one level of the hundreds of levels, ramps, and locations underground that I have been able to visit every part of the underground over my years. But this is just the 1700 level, and parts of it are used today by the Environmental Health, Safety, and Security Department for training purposes, to give people a visual orientation before they go underground so that they know what to expect. But I've also included my cleanup closure photos and notations, as well as other information related to the 1700. So that's just one level. And like I say, there's hundreds of these. So you can imagine what my office looks like.
What is your oldest cap here? Do they tell a story?
Well, I guess my oldest cap is my military hat that I wore. I don't know if I probably have a big head now. As far as the homestake hats, that white one is probably the older one that I have. The one that says Draeger, that's the company out of Germany that makes the most supreme self-contained breathing apparatus that the Sanford Underground Research Facility emergency response team wears those. They're actually in the process of upgrading to the latest model. Pat, you can't hear this, but each one is probably $15,000, and I think we have 32 of them. So that's to keep people alive if they have to go underground and fight a fire or a chemical spill or any other unforeseen event. Again, the probability is really, really low. The lab and Homestake all have done a marvelous job of having the values of prevention and preparation, not response. But we can respond if we need to. So lots of training. Hopefully we never need it. Yes, Diana.
Well, and I'd just like to say that it only took 4 times for Tom to retire. He retired in November of last year for his 4th time. Not sure if it's his last time.
Oh, yeah, I'm enjoying doing this sort of thing. When we moved in, I had a lot of people that kind of understood a little bit about what I've done and asked me to please do some programs. So here you go. I've to the point where, yes.
Another thing about the pictures from Marcia Smith is that these are all from buildings from Lead in the good old days that she has here. Are they all still there?
No, most of them are not. Most of them are buildings that were on the mountain that was mined under and mined out the North Lead, and the subsidence from mining under it and eventually created into an open pit mine. It was called the open cut. But where there's a big hole, that used to be the tallest mountain in Lead, almost as high as Terry Peak. And Lead went up that old mountain, and all of these buildings, that was part of Lead. There are a couple there that are of the central school facility. Those buildings are still there. One of them has been repurposed into condominiums, upscale condominiums. So, and I think that little Finnish church, that's down by the Homestake Visitor Center. now painted purple and is a thrift shop or a souvenir shop. I almost said junk shop, but so.
Is that some kind of a trolley bus?
Oh, yeah, good question. Good catch. In the 1920s, Homestake sponsored and along with Lead Deadwood had a electric overhead trolley person vehicle that went between Lead and Deadwood to take people back and forth. And Elizabeth Lockhart was born and raised in Lead, and she remembers that from her childhood. And if you ever go up Gold Run Gulch between Pluma and Lead and look off the other side of the creek that is there, you can see kind of a flat spot along the hillside. It's all overgrown. You have to really look, but that's where the trolley line was. That was where the trolley was at. That was the trolley road. It was rail. It was a rail trolley. Yes.
And you have the picture in front here, the overhead view of the Lead.
Oh, yeah, this is a busy one. It will probably be, I'll expand it upon in a future presentation, but this is a overhead Google kind of shot of Lead being here. If you're familiar with Lead at all, this is the top of Mill Street. This is the top of Mill Street. Diane and I lived in a house right here. That was our house for 44 years before we moved to Rapid City. Upper Sawyer Street, 708 Sawyer Street. Grandkids called it the White House. And the Ross head frame, the Ross shaft, the Ross complex is here. The Yates is here. Highway 385 would be right about here. And this is the Oro Hondo ventilation complex and the Kirk substation. This little part right here is the one slice of the open cut. So there's a lot of view here, but the orange line outlines the property donation that took place in 2008 when Homestake Barrick, along with benefactor T. Denny Sanford, who donated $70 million seed money for the lab, along with Homestake Mining Company, Barrick Gold, got together with the state of South Dakota representatives and came up with a plan for the property donation agreement. And there's a whole story on that. That's really it's quite interesting and quite complex, as Pat knows. It's just there's a lot that went into that. So there's a lot of stakeholders involved in the lab, not to mention the very big and complex network of science, education, outreach, engineering from around the world now that is migrating and working in Lead. There's right at about 220 employees now with the lab, full-time employees, some part-time. In addition, as they ramp up for the final construction and development of the new experiment that's underground, there'll be about 450 construction workers on the property as well. Not all at the same time, working various shifts 24/7, all trying to get up and down a 4'6" wide, 12-foot long, 9-foot high elevator. And everything that has to go down has to go either in, on top of, or underneath that small conveyance. So it's literally like building a gigantic ship in a bottle underground. And again, these are all chapters in the encyclopedia. I have lots of cool stuff to show you. Yes.
Yes. I'm wondering how many people here have actually been down in the mine.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah.
I'm one of them.
You ever, just how many have been underground at the Homestake mine?
Do they have tours?
Not underground, no. You can get a really nice tour from the Homestake Sanford Lab Visitor Center. And they have a bus tour that does a historical drive-through lead, and then up to the Yates complex into the hoist room. And they have a old cage or conveyance that you can actually get into in the visitor center to give you an idea of what the size of it. And that little cage would hold 32 people, like sardines packed in a can. And they also have some pretty cool videos in that that they've taken of the going down the shaft, so you can kind of get that sense of what that looked like and sounded like. They've done a really nice job of that. So I encourage you to go up to the visitor center. And the gem of the Black Hills of South Dakota is the Homestake Mining Museum on Main Street. It's a wonderful facility that doesn't get its due.
Former employees built it.
Oh yeah, yeah. John Mead was it was all built by former Homestake employees. Yes, sir. Yes. Oh, good question. I forget the address, but down there where the Pizza Hut takeout place is at, kind of like, this is in Rapid City, over by Family Fair over here on the east side. There's a big storage facility, outdoor warehouse, if you will. You know where the road goes up over the hump as you're going north? Well, off to the side, on the back side, there's all of the beams, they're all painted red, that are the superstructure for the long baseline neutrino project. That's part of the deep underground neutrino experiment that's being built underground at Homestake site at the Sanford Lab. And each one of those pieces have to be taken down that small shaft, and they have rigging and they have gear. They've tested it. They've built mock-ups of it to take down 4,850 feet, a mile deep, and offload onto the 4850. And they have an overhead crane, big long beam that goes about 1,200 feet to take those beams and all of the other material to these gigantic caverns that are going to be filled up with all of this superstructure. I believe the steel was manufactured in Spain. It was shipped to Texas, brought up by railroad car to Rapid City, and stored where it is now. And slowly but surely by truck, it will make its way to Lead, offloaded and sent down. And each piece is a little bit different than each piece. And each piece is numbered, and it has to, you talk about crossword puzzles. They could probably use some of you crossword puzzle people to help put that back together. Or jigsaw puzzle, yeah. Well, crossword too. Yeah. Yes, sir.
You indicated no underground tours.
Correct.
There was a period in the 60s, 70s, where as part of a safety award, wives, etc., were taken on a small underground tour. That was a reward for winning the safety.
And the lab still has a similar setup. It's been delayed because of construction, but they're hoping to get it started back up again. It's called Friends and Family Day. So each employee, under the last time we did it, could have 2 people go underground on a tour. Could be a spouse or a child or a friend or family, to go underground. So,
So it's still going.
The school.
well, yes,
The
yeah.
school of mines used to give tours to their mining students.
yes. And there are still some tours for people who are stakeholders or have particular connections. South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, engineers, professors, those who are connected with the lab, oftentimes will get a courtesy tour, as well as educators. The lab has a fantastic education and outreach department that provides education material free of charge around the state and beyond. And they have a staff that go and help teachers learn how to teach science for STEM, science, education, technology, and math. Science, technology, education, and math. Yes.
I've been working with some young people up at Hill City, and there's a young man, I think he's 19 years old, never heard of the science lab. And I think that is quite evident in a lot of people who do not even realize what our state is offering to the world.
Right. And this is part of it. My passion is the mine and the lab itself, and the connection with the people that are there and can continue to carry on that legacy. And this is another way that we can hopefully get the word out. I'm here on my own capacity. I'm not an official representative of the lab or of Homestake, but I still have the voice of approval to carry on, as it were. I'm endeavoring to persevere.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can I tell, 6 hours underground, Ralph and I went down, it got down to 6,800 feet underground. And this was back in 1978. And this was with the Chamber of Commerce. And we were on the trains. You didn't have your lamp on. You couldn't even see your hand in front of your face. It was that black. And we stopped at this one place, and the miners, I can't tell you, they were such ambassadors of the mine. They couldn't have been prouder to tell us about their mine, their work in the mine. And we stopped at this one place, and truly it was like in a void. I had no idea where we were, other than we were sitting down on a train seat. And the lights came on our hats, and they said, "We're going to show you a newly blasted stope." It had just been blasted the shift between the two shifts the night before. And I'm in my 40s, and they say, "We'll go up this ladder." So I'm gullible. I start climbing up this ladder flat in the wall. And I get up and I'm looking down and I realize it's probably 20, 30 feet above the train. And I'm stopping, I'm thinking, what the heck am I doing? And all of a sudden, as I went to reach for the next step holder thing, it ended. But there was more wall. More wall, no ladder, but more wall. And all of a sudden, from down or from above me came down these big, gnarly hands of a miner, and he picked me up under my armpits and threw me up and dropped me on the stove. And I won't tell you what I said, because I was scared, you know what. But that was what the miners did to get to work every day. Wow. And that was their workhouse. It was astounding. Yeah. So just a day in a visitor's experience.
Well, that's what the Price of Gold book is. It's stories like that from other miners. And I think you'll enjoy the book. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I have to say that my father worked in the mine also, and started in 1950. And then Tom came in 69. And I must say, Tom is the most safety conscious person that you will ever know. And I never was afraid a day that he would not come home. I never was ever afraid. Tom is not going to take chances anywhere. So I never was afraid of that.
I married a gold miner's daughter.
Yeah.
We were amazed to watch the lift operator sitting in what looked like something straight out of Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Huge chair.
Yeah.
Surrounded by oxygen bottles.
Yep. That was the hoist breather system. So if the place filled up with smoke, they could put that on, turn the oxygen on, and they could operate the hoist mechanism. And that came about from the 1972 fire at Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And the book over here called The Deep Dark chronologicals in a personal way that event. And that was a watershed event that was promulgated by Congress in 1975 to become the Mine Safety Health Administration. And that was the beginning of many of the current environmental health, safety, and security rules that United States mines and Canadian mines, and even now more European mines, are modeled after for safety and health. Yes.
A few silver miners lost their life because the lift operator was overcome.
Yes, yes, sir. There were 92 that lost their lives. They were able to rescue 2. They happened to be at the bottom of a 14-foot diameter ventilation borehole that had fresh air going to them. And they ate out of lunch buckets. And anyway, that story is in that book, The Deep Dark, which I hope to donate to the library here as well. Well, that's it. I'm going to hang around a little bit to answer any questions or just be here. So thank you for your attention. Okay.
And when are you going to have food on?
What's one more?
All right.
About it. I've never been interrupted. But I bet you were very.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Middle. Okay.
Yeah, good to hear.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.